With us in the Rappler studio is American Chamber of Commerce lead advisor John Forbes and principal author of Arangkada, Philippines. John, tell us, hello, nice to see you again. Tell us about Arangkada. What was it? What's the vision behind it?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on Rappler. I'm very, very excited about this new social media venture of you and your colleagues, and congratulate you. So the idea behind it originated several years ago. At the time of the beginning of the current financial crisis. We're not entirely out of it yet. And the Joint Foreign Chambers decided they wanted to look at or develop recommendations for what we call the 7 big winner sectors that would accelerate growth within those sectors. They're pretty well known: agribusiness, business processing, creative industries, infrastructure, manufacturing and logistics, mining, and tourism, including retirement and medical travel. So we did, in short, have 9 focus group discussions with almost 300 investors, foreign and Filipino, and developed recommendations, which were turned into this hefty volume. 470 recommendations, 1.5 kilograms each recommend. I haven't calculated how much each recommendation weighs, but we produced this a year ago.
And what's happened to it since then?
Well, we've had lots of dialogues with stakeholders in government and other leaders, and we found a good reception to it. However, people asked, well, how's it going?
Yes.
And that led to a process of doing an assessment, which is my other document that I wanted to share with your viewers. And that involved asking about 50 experts to basically rate the progress or lack of progress on these 471 recommendations.
And how does the country, how have we done
it shapes up. I mean, I've been observing the Philippines for 40 years, and the country wouldn't be as undeveloped as it is if it had progressed. If it had, can I use the past tense of Arangkada? If it had Arangkada'd in the last 40 years,
yes,
it wouldn't be in the current position. So we, this process of assessing them, the total was 55% are moving, are progressing, or accomplished, and 45% are not. And sadly, 46 were measured as regressing.
Oh, wow. At the forum itself, DTI Secretary Greg Domingo had a very bullish assessment. He expected growth to go up to as high as 7% at one point. And then he was followed by former Finance Secretary Bobby Ocampo, who said that much more pragmatic. I guess, in your view, what's the gap between what the two men are saying?
Well, one is an aspiration and the other is a more realistic assessment. And perhaps the optimist will come out in between. I think government people always look at or talk about the highest range of the upside. The thing we advocated overall of twice as fast is not just GDP growth, but all these activities related to the 7 big winner sectors. That if the country, the private and public sector, can move twice as fast, then the sectors will grow twice as fast or even faster. In fact, the tourism secretary has the aspiration to go twice as fast for 10 million.
Given the assessment that you have, is it possible for the economy to move twice as fast?
Oh, I think so.
Really?
No, I think we have to keep in mind that the first decade of this century, the Philippines grew at a GDP of an average of over 4%. And most of that came from the remittances. If you look at the chart, and there is a chart in Arangkada, and Arangkada is available to everybody in the world on a website called arangkadaphilippines.com. There's a chart in part 1 that shows the growth of remittances. They are estimated to reach $20 billion, either last year, last month, or this month, coming up this year. They're at that level. Now that generates growth. On top of that, because we look at other countries, Vietnam, Indonesia, neither the Vietnamese nor the Indonesians go abroad as much as the Filipinos. They don't have as much in the way of remittances, and yet Vietnam has been growing almost up to 10%. Indonesia this year is growing at 6.6%. So surely there's something that they're doing,
Right.
creating jobs in the domestic economy, that the Philippines can also do.
What's holding the Philippines back?
Well, in the past, it was political instability, but
Yeah.
we're beyond that.
Yes.
And in fact, the growth of the Philippines the last couple of years has been about the same, GDP growth, as the other ASEAN 6 economies that we measured against: Singapore, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia. What's holding it back, I think, in the past has been political will, poor governance, and then I think I heard your business reporter say infrastructure, 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 which is something that we've also said. There is a chart that Bill Luce, his slides, and his slides, all these slides are up on our website. A lot of the information that was discussed, and even more, will be up there in the future from this forum.
Yes.
But Bill put up a World Bank slide that showed the largest or major concerns of investors. And the first is governance, i.e. corruption. And the second is red tape and inefficient bureaucracy. And equal with it is infrastructure. So, and the government is working
Yes.
to fix all three of those problems.
Part of the problem with infrastructure has been the level of corruption,
Oh,
the
in the
leakage.
past?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you a good example. And if you have listeners in Laguna and Cavite, they will know how hard it is to commute by jeepney or private vehicle to all those factories that are down there. Now, there's been a project to extend the LRT1 light rail
Right.
down to Bacoor for the last 10 years.
Yes.
Now, why has the DOTC been sitting on it for more than 10 years? It's incomprehensible. Now, is that corruption? I'm certain in the last administration that for a period it was corruption. And I was encouraged yesterday that the president singled out 3 LRT projects that he wanted to accomplish in this administration.
Were you happy with what the president said?
I think so, yes. I think he touched, I mean, I heard a few speeches
Yes.
in the last month that he gave that were focused on domestic issues. And this was the first economic speech of this sort of comprehensiveness
Yes.
that we've heard in a while. But he picked up these 7 big winners in his campaign was it last year? 2
Yes,
years ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
It's been 18 months that this administration's been in office.
Yes.
How has it done for business? What environment
Well,
has it
I
set?
think there's a lot of optimism. We see confidence surveys that are high. We are not yet seeing any great inflow of foreign investors, but I think that the situation is improved. There's an awareness that corruption is being attacked. It takes a while to be convinced that that has actually occurred. Some of the reforms from the Department of Budget and Management, Department of Public Works, and how they're wringing corruption out of their expenditures for roads and bridges, that awareness is spreading. Now, the government does not promote itself especially well abroad.
Yes.
It doesn't have a PR agency. It's not advertising like, I mean, I watch the Indonesian equivalent of the BOI advertising, investing in Indonesia with pretty models raising glasses of champagne. And they have exactly the same problems of rule of law and infrastructure and sometimes political violence, as you well know, that we have here.
So you're saying it was a matter of marketing in that
Marketing is part of it,
situation.
yes. Yes.
On Monday, the GDP numbers are supposed to be announced. Do you expect any surprises?
No, I think they'll be around 4% or slightly less than that. But I'm confident that, to quote my friend Secretary Del Campo, it's pretty hard to get them any lower than they were this year. Now, that gives me confidence that twice as fast, not this year, but next year and the year after that is attainable.
It's great to hear your optimism. John Forbes from
Okay.
the American Chamber of Commerce.